All right, everybody, welcome to the Home Court Advantage. My name is Chris Stark with Coach Stark Homes. And in Home Court Advantage, we do all kinds of different things on our streams. And tonight, we're going to go ahead and talk about the Suns. Of course, living in Phoenix, being a huge Suns fan and being a huge sports fan, I figured why not the night before the Suns get going. And I'm going to bring on my boy Caleb, who's a former Suns employee that knows more about the Suns than anyone I know. And we're just going to go ahead and talk about a couple things leading up to the Suns series and all the excitement leading up to it. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Caleb on now.
Hey, thanks for having me,
bud?
Coach.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we got a little bit of the butterflies. We got a first round playoff eve here.
Yeah, it's exciting, especially tonight. We got to see 4 games. So it's almost like in football when we have the late game, you get those morning games to get you going, and then your game's on the afternoon. And, watching the games tonight or even this afternoon kind of definitely got the blood pumping, and definitely for me, the nerves a little bit.
No
getting ready for tomorrow night.
I always say you can't. I mean, I don't take any team lightly. We're not to dive right in. I mean, the Pelicans are 7th in net rating since the All-Star break, so that's going to be a tough opponent. But I think the Warriors are for sure legit, right? Like I think we kind of already knew it, but they're dismantling the Nuggets here. I don't know if that was a huge surprise, but that is going to be a absolute slugfest 7-game series if that ends up happening in the Western Conference Finals.
Well, I think and there's so many amazing playoff series before we get into the Suns. A lot of people picked Minnesota over over Ja and Memphis, and that's turning into it's one game. And one of the things that I'm a little bit worried about the Suns is kind of what happened to Memphis a little bit of that layoff. So,
sure,
you'll be interested to see what happens in game 2. But I mean, for everybody that was just writing off Golden State, I just kind of laughed at it. But I mean, that Nets Boston series is going to be tremendous. There's so many good series this year. Obviously, we're going to focus on the Suns more, but the playoffs are just going to be tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. This was kind of like the first day of March Madness, if you will, for NBA fans. And I think no days off until, almost 2 more months. So it's going to be a lot of basketball. It really is. They call it the postseason for a reason because it is a whole other season stacked on top of the regular season we just had.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Obviously, we're big sports fans and big Suns fans. There's all kinds of keys to victory, and I have a couple. But I want to start with you. Give me one thing that you think when you're watching the games, you're like, hey, you know what? We definitely need to make sure that we do this if we want to be victorious.
Well, I mean, for the Pelicans series, and probably something we'll talk about just throughout the playoffs. And I'm not breaking any news here, but the Achilles heel for the Suns will be offensive rebounds for our opponent, just making sure that we can not allow second chance opportunities. If you look back at the box scores from last year from the NBA Finals, like the Suns were the better team. The Bucks just got a lot more shots. As far as who has the better basketball players, the Phoenix Suns had the better basketball players. The Bucks just had the math on their side. So the thing that I'm always worried about is DA going to stay out of foul trouble? And probably so. He's shown that he will. Is he going to be engaged? Probably so. It's the playoffs, but when he's not, and what does that look like? And then who else is going to crash the boards? I mean, that if they can limit, because the defense is there, obviously, if they can finish a possession and limit those second chance opportunities, they're not going to turn the ball over very much. We have Chris Paul. They're going to make shots. We have Devin Booker, Chris Paul. They're going to have the corner threes with Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. They will be almost impossible to beat, in my opinion, if they can limit second chance opportunities.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up. That to me, that's the number one thing is, even when I used to coach, it was always, I'd always harp on my players. It was always whoever wins the turnover battle and the rebounding battle. And to me, when it comes to rebounds, even defensive rebounds, I want to look at as well. I just want to look at total rebounds because to me, if we're rebounding the ball defensively, that tells me we're defending and we're forcing missed shots. So I always want to see, are we getting more defensive rebounds than they are? And then the other one, like you said, offensive rebounds. DA's in an interesting spot here. There's a lot of talk here. Is he a max player? Is he not a max player? I personally do not think he is. But he played.
Well, he's not. But is he a max player to the Suns? And that's where the conversation is interesting, and because that he probably is, right? Because you're not going to be able to replace his value unless it's some type of sign and trade thing that's convoluted and very rarely works out. There's just the way the salary cap works. He probably is a max player to the Suns because you won't be able to replace that value. The money doesn't work that way, the bird rights and
Right.
everything. So I think the best outcome for the Suns, the best case scenario is DeAndre Ayton continuing to get better. And to be fair, and I am like we haven't talked about it, I am not the biggest DeAndre Ayton fan, but to be fair to him, he was phenomenal last postseason. They don't make the run without him, and in big games, he's been great this year. It's just like as hardcore fans that are watching, maybe a Tuesday night against Oklahoma City or whatever. Those are the games where he, kind of goes in and out of. But I expect he's going to play well.
Yeah, he's got a lot of money to make this postseason. I mean, he can make him a lot of money or lose a lot of money this postseason. I agree. I think he'll be engaged. And to me, yeah, like you said, offensive rebounding. Can Jay Crowder, who is a small four, can he rebound? Can Cam Johnson get in there rebound? Will they play two bigs at the same time? Depend on the matchup. I'm definitely interested to see if Monty does that at times.
Sure.
And kind of, I mean, he's done a little bit during the season. He's played small. I mean, we do have some more roster flexibility than we definitely did last year. So I'm definitely excited about it. For me, also a key to victory is, are we getting to the free throw line? Are we settling for jump shots or are we getting to the free throw line? And look, we're both Suns fans. Sometimes the Suns can get themselves into a situation where they're, I don't want to say whining, but they definitely let the refs get in their head a little bit. I just want to see them play well, get to the free throw line, get some easy buckets, see the ball go through the net a little bit with the free throw line. And if they're doing that, then I think they're going to be really difficult to stop offensively.
Yeah, and that's true. I don't know that I necessarily foresee that, just because that's not a strength of this basketball team. Like Devin Booker does occasionally attack the rim, and that's one. Cameron Payne does, but they're just a team that's not what the offense is, and that's okay, right? Like
True.
they're going to win in other ways. So I'm with you. Like if they shoot more free throws, then obviously they're going to be in a great spot. But I just wouldn't look for that. And I think again, I don't necessarily know that they have to have it. One of the things that I'm super interested about for round one is obviously the Willie Green factor. The Jonas Valanciunas is a player that I think if most coaches are playing the Suns, he's probably going to get played off the floor pretty quickly, at least in the fourth quarter for sure, as Chris Paul attacks, gets his little mid-range, sets up a cutting Mikal Bridges, whatever it is, he's gonna be able to do that. But Willie Green knows that's what they're going to do as well.
Right.
And so what does that look like? I really don't know, and I think that's what's so interesting about this matchup is he knows the team better than anybody else outside of the organization and the people in Phoenix, right? So, what does that look like? That to me is going to be super compelling.
Well, the chess match between the two. I mean, personally, I think when Chris Paul's off the floor, I think you're going to see a lot of trapping of Devin Booker if he's running anything on ball. I think they're going to go ahead and just blast that through that on ball screen and get the ball out of his hands and force Cam Payne and some other guys to make decisions. Kind of moving forward. And last year, I did some stuff on it. The Suns were almost unbeatable if Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges both scored in double figures. And I think it was even like if both of them scored in double figures, they were something like 9-1. And even if just Mikal got in double figures, now Mikal's definitely changed his game drastically he's definitely more than just a 3-point shooter. He's turned himself into just a really good all-around basketball player. But I think if you see Jay Crowder, who, as we know, can definitely get streaky. But if we see, Crowder in double figures and Mikal in double figures, I think that's also something to look kind of a little stat thing to look at. If those guys get in double figures, the Suns usually win.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the one other player that we haven't really touched on yet, but Cam Johnson, I mean, what's it going to look like from him? Because he had quietly one of the more outstanding role player postseasons that I can ever remember last year. I mean, his field goal percentage was through the roof. I think it was an all-time top field goal percentage. So before he got hurt, before the contusion injury, he was playing incredible basketball. Obviously highlighted by the 38-point game-winning buzzer beater win over the Knicks on March 4th. But he kind of struggled when he came back, right? Like as you would from a long layoff. And if they have him, I mean, that's an incredible ace in the hole. If he's playing to the level that he can, if he's shooting, 48%, whatever that may be from from beyond the arc. I mean, good night.
Well, they were starting to run pin down screens for him. They were running sets for him, which just shows at his development as a player, and that kind of leads me into what I want to get into next, which is,
Okay.
as far as players go, who is your breakout player that you're kind of looking at and saying, you know what, it could even be Booker or whatever, but like someone that you just think is going to go ahead and maybe exceed expectations in this first round.
Oh, good question. Yeah, I don't really know that there is. To me, the Suns players have all already broken out, and we kind of know what the rotation is. I mean, you could have maybe thrown uh, you could have said something like, "Oh, Landry Shamet is going to finally show he belongs," but he's got the ankle injury right now, and frankly, I don't think he was going to play that many minutes either
No.
way. To me, I think it really is just Devin Booker is going to continue to remind people that he is one of the next great players in the NBA. And I know that's not really answering the question, but I just think that he can get another level up from where he was even last year. And I would not be surprised. I mean, knock on wood, I really could see him averaging 30 a game in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, he can. I mean, again, he can break out. For me, and boy, I wish we would have had him last year. To me, it's McGee.
Okay.
I think a lot of people that don't watch the Suns and what makes us love the Suns is that they're well balanced.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a Sports Center darling. They're not. We don't have John. We don't have Anthony Edwards. We just don't have those guys that are doing highlight reel dunks every game. But we win. And at the end of the day, what I'm excited about is having McGee be able to get in if Ayton does get into foul trouble. But there's going to be a game or two, in my opinion, where all of a sudden JaVale McGee has a double-double. And as a fan of, you're looking at, the Pelicans, their fan base is like, Jesus, like JaVale McGee beat us. And we felt that way a little bit with, some of the Bucks players last year. But I just think, people that don't watch the Suns, he's been massive this season for him. And I think he's going to have a couple big games where all of a sudden he's going to help us win this first round.
Could JaVale McGee be the breakout player for his pregame introduction? Best team in the mother effing world that may get more and more play throughout the postseason. They do it every game.
Yep.
It was brought, and actually, what's funny is the one that I feel like kind of picked up a little bit of steam on the internet was when they went to the New Orleans last, and he said, I'm in the bayou, but I've heard there's some gators here, but I brought my dogs. I do think that clip, each game he does something unique, and he is a world-class hype man. He's great at that.
He's been a great addition.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, the thing for me more than anything else, and I guess why I have the butterflies, I just don't want the season to end. I mean, it's been so much fun, just all the little things. Like, they can really say, every night in and night out, hey, we are the best team in the world, and not only believe it, but then go out and prove it. And it's one of my favorite things about where our season tickets are, and what I love going to the game is I love watching the bench react. That you don't always get on Bally Sports or wherever the game's being played. I love watching the pregame intros. Every time Mikal Bridges is introduced, he joins the end of when Booker and Paul and everyone's out. They play a game of Boo Ray, like they play on the airplane, and they start dealing them out. But before they start doing that, they kick Mikal Bridges out of their Boo Ray circle in the pregame intros because his contract hasn't kicked in yet. He can't afford the game. And that is something that comes from real life. That actually happened in real life. And now they do it before every pregame intro, So I just think it's just like the continuity. This is a special team.
Agreed.
Like they love each other. They have fun, So I just hope we have a nice long run, because I don't want it to end, and I don't want the off season to come and maybe you have to talk about who we're going to replace guys with. So
yeah, the team chemistry is unheard of, and I agree. It's one of those things where, and let's be honest, as a Phoenix sports fan, and I love them all. We're not going to get into the Cardinals, God forbid, right now, and the Diamondbacks aren't even worth discussing, and the Coyotes. So this is it. This is it. My Sun Devils are god awful and damn near everything at this point. So at this point, this is what we can hinge our hopes on. Last thing, my man,
Sure.
Not to be on a negative thing, but what is one player that you're a little bit concerned about going into the series?
I guess I tipped my hand a little bit. I'm mildly concerned about Cam
Yeah,
Johnson, just because
that's mine too.
not because he's, doesn't have it. He obviously has it. Just because I don't feel like by the time he got back, the games they didn't really matter, right? So it felt like they weren't running their same sets. They weren't playing their same rotations, and I just don't know that he ever got in the swing of things. I hopefully, that's something that comes back pretty quick, but I just think they need him. Like one of the Achilles heels outside of the rebounding issue can be, the Suns bench can kind of go in some spells where they have trouble creating offense. If Campaign's little floater's not hitting right off the backboard to the right ankle and isn't dropping, then it can be tricky. So they need Cam Johnson. They need him. So that would be my player.
Yeah, and I'm right with you. I mean, that's my guy too. And I'm a big Cam Johnson guy, and
Yeah, I think we
he
all
was
are.
playing at, like as you said, he was playing at such a high level. He was shooting at a point, and there's just players in the league that when the shot leaves their fingertips, you're just like, that's probably going in. And Cam got to that point where if he was getting a decent look, you pretty much were surprised when it didn't go in. And he did not play very well, and he was definitely out of shape when he came back. And I think that injury was much worse than they let on.
Sure.
And I think if we can get through this first round and get him back up to speed, but I also think this first round is going to be much tougher than people think. I mean, people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Suns in 4, Suns in 5." I think you have to factor in that this is a mere almost. The Pelicans have even said like they're trying to make their team based on the Suns, and they brought CJ in as almost the Chris Paul factor, and they already had Ingram, and they have some dudes that can play. And I legitimately say that they have dudes, like they don't just have players, like they have legit like potential stars on their team, and
Sure.
it is not going to be an easy series. I mean, it might be 4 games or 5. I actually think it's going to go 6. I think it's going to be a test, and I think they're definitely going to give the Suns everything that they're looking for. But I do think the Suns win in 6. Last thing, what's your prediction for the series?
Well, I mean, just to expand on it, kind of where you were at. If you watched the game last night, like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy were two guys that you have to really be concerned about too, and those are rookies that are playing much beyond their years. Jones is going to be a tough matchup. Frankly, I don't think that the best defender in the world can shut down Devin Booker at this point, but he will make life difficult for him. I'm with you. I think that here's yes, they have CJ, they have Brandon Ingram, and we have Chris Paul, and we have Devin Booker, who are just a notch above those two at kind of the same things that they do. And we have Mikal Bridges, who, I think Herb Jones would love to be like, maybe hopefully in a year or two. So I just think we're kind of like a couple years advanced on where the Pelicans are. So I would also say 6 probably, but would love to see it close out in 5. Yeah, you know what? I'll go 5 since you're going 6, just because I do think the games are going to be tough, and I think they're going to be tight. But yeah, I want to be a little bit different. So, and if they have a chance to clinch the series at home on Game 5, I think they would do it.
Yeah, and I would agree with you on that. And we look, I know you got tickets, I have tickets. The atmosphere is tremendous going to the games, and there was nothing like it last year. I know there was a lot of things that factored into it. Kind of post-COVID a little bit, and going to the arena and getting out of the house and rooting for something and just kind of being excited about something. But yeah, I'm ready to go. Can't thank you enough for joining me, my man. And let's try to have you on maybe later on in the playoffs.
Sounds great. Good luck out there.
See you, bud.
Okay.
Hey, really appreciate you guys, kind of waiting. I know it's a little bit of a longer video, but just kind of wanted to get it out. Hey, enjoy your evening. Enjoy playoff basketball. And I look forward to seeing you guys a little bit later.